The moment you realize you've been waiting for permission your entire life arrives without warning. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, sitting alone at your kitchen table, staring at a text message you've rewritten 11 times but still haven't sent. It's nothing dramatic, just a simple request. You want to ask your friend if you can change the time of dinner plans next week. That's all. But your thumb hovers over the send button like it weighs 1,000 pounds, and somewhere deep in your chest, a familiar tightness begins to spread. You delete the message. You'll just make it work, you tell yourself. You'll figure it out. You always do. And in that small, seemingly insignificant moment of surrender, something in you finally cracks open. Not violently, but slowly, like a door you've kept locked for decades, creaking open just enough to let the light through. You set your phone face down on the table and sit in the silence, and for the first time, you let yourself see the pattern. It started when you were young. You remember being 8 years old, wanting to take art classes instead of soccer, but your father had already signed you up, already told his coworkers about your games, already built a version of you in his mind that you felt obligated to become. So you played soccer. You weren't good at it, and you didn't love it, but you learned something crucial that year. Your desires were negotiable, but other people's expectations were not. That lesson buried itself so deep in your bones that you stopped questioning it. You became the child who asked, "What do you want?" before expressing any preference. The teenager who chose colleges based on what would make your parents proud. The adult who built an entire career around being useful to others, while your own dreams gathered dust in some forgotten corner of your mind. You think about your job now, the one you've had for 6 years, and you realize you never actually chose it. You fell into it because someone suggested it, because it seemed stable, because saying yes was easier than figuring out what you actually wanted. And every morning when your alarm goes off at 6:15, there's a split second before full consciousness where something in you resists, but you push it down. You always push it down. The kitchen is quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator, and you find yourself thinking about last Thursday night, a moment that seemed unremarkable at the time, but now feels like evidence. You were at dinner with friends, and someone asked where everyone wanted to go for vacation this summer. One by one, people threw out ideas: Hawaii, Maine, that cabin in Colorado. When they turned to you, you felt your throat tighten. You had an answer. You've always wanted to go to Iceland, something about the northern lights, the isolation, the raw and untouched beauty of it. But instead of saying that, you heard yourself say, "I'm easy, whatever everyone else wants." And you watched the moment pass, watched your own desire dissolve into the group consensus, and you felt something you couldn't name. Relief, maybe, but underneath it, something heavier, something like grief. You stand up from the table now and walk to the window, looking out at the street where nothing is happening. A neighbor is walking their dog. A car passes slowly, the ordinary rhythm of ordinary life. And yet, inside you, something extraordinary is unfolding, a recognition that has been building for years, maybe decades, waiting for you to be still enough to hear it. You've spent your whole life trying to be easy, low maintenance, the person who never asks for too much, who folds themselves into whatever shape the situation requires. You thought this made you good, selfless, evolved. But standing here now, watching the afternoon light slant through the glass, you begin to understand the truth. You weren't being selfless. You were being afraid. Afraid that your real self, the one with preferences and opinions and needs, wasn't worth the risk of rejection. Afraid that if you took up space, people would leave. Afraid that underneath all the accommodation and flexibility, there might not be anyone there at all. You think about your mother, and the memory comes sharp and sudden. You're 12 years old, and she's upset about something. You don't remember what, and you spend the entire evening trying to fix it. You make her tea. You clean your room without being asked. You become small and helpful and invisible, and by the time you go to bed, she's smiling again, and you feel a surge of something that you now recognize as the most dangerous lesson of your childhood, that your value was measured by how well you managed other people's emotions. You carried that lesson into every relationship, every job, every friendship where you became the listener, the supporter, the one who absorbed everyone else's problems while keeping your own locked away. You told yourself you didn't need to be heard, didn't need to take up space, didn't need to have a turn. But the truth, the uncomfortable, undeniable truth, is that you do. You do need those things. You've always needed them. You just learned so early to stop asking that you forgot the asking was ever an option. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across your kitchen floor. You pick up your phone and look at the text thread again. Such a small thing, asking to change a dinner time. But you understand now that it was never about the dinner. It was about whether you believe your needs deserve to exist in the world, whether you trust that the people who love you can handle your honesty, whether you're willing to risk being inconvenient in exchange for being real. You think about all the versions of yourself you've performed over the years, the agreeable coworker, the easygoing friend, the child who never caused problems, and you feel a strange mixture of compassion and sorrow. You did what you had to do to survive, to be loved, to belong. But you're not a child anymore, and the strategy that once protected you has become the prison that contains you. Your thumb hovers over the keyboard. You start typing. Hey, would it be okay if we pushed dinner to 7:30 instead? 12 words, nothing revolutionary, but as you press send, something shifts in your chest. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a small release of pressure you didn't know you were holding. And you realize that this is how it begins, not with grand declarations or sudden transformations, but with tiny acts of honesty, with the slow, terrifying practice of letting yourself exist without apology. You set the phone down and take a breath. Outside, the neighbor has finished their walk and the street is empty. The moment passes into memory, but something has changed, something quiet and irreversible, because you finally understand the question you've been avoiding your entire life. If you need permission to be yourself, who exactly have you been all this time?